So all of this happened in just 1 week. I think that's important to say. This is all 1 week of time. At the time, I was watching a lot of Bored to Death, the TV show. I like TV, and I liked Bored to Death, but I tend to like TV that seems reminiscent of my own life, like TV that it's a pretty easy formula to fit. I'm a half Jewish, neurotic person who lives in New York and thinks of himself as an artist. So like most of the TV landscape is dedicated to me. But sometimes I think the formula works the other way around. Like I like watching television that's reminiscent of my own life, but sometimes I think I want my life to be reminiscent of television. Anyway, Bored to Death is this show about Jonathan Ames and his autobiographical character, played by Jason Schwartzman, who's this struggling author who has like writer's block, and so he decides to post an ad on Craigslist saying that he's an amateur detective. And then he gets hired to go on all these like crazy mysteries and misadventures like abound, and it's fun and it's exciting, and then he has something to write about. I was also feeling bored and lonely, I guess, and struggling to do anything worthwhile artistically. So I did what all good artists do. I copied, but I figured I'd put my own twist on it. Like I like adventure, but I prefer my adventure to be internal, like cerebral and emotional. I tend to not like books with plots or stories. I like books with like just a good voice and a compelling character. So I instead wrote a Craigslist ad offering free therapy from an amateur therapist. You know how sometimes you have like an opinion that you don't know if you even hold that opinion anymore, but you used to hold it so strongly that when you try to form a new opinion about that thing, your brain just remembers all the rants that you went on about your old opinion. So you like immediately just start restating an opinion that you used to have, and your brain just goes on like autopilot, except this time it feels like obviously a little less impassioned than you really wanted to, and you end your rant with something like, I don't know, or something, and I don't actually care that much. That's what happens to me every time I try to think about therapy. I don't really know how I feel about it now. I don't think I ever will, because every time I try to think about a new opinion about therapy, I just remember the rants I would go on when I was a 20-year-old full of indignance. And I would say things like, therapy is like the capitalism of friendship. It's just which is the last bastion of life that was untainted by coinage, that was true and earnest in its economy and its exchange of goods without a quantitative analysis and therapy just ruins that. It puts dollars and cents to advice and listening, the thing you should be doing all the time with your friends. And I personally will never go to a therapist, because the second I do, I need better friends or something. I don't really care that much. I don't know. At the time I needed friends. I had just moved to New York literally a week before, and the only friend that I had in New York was leaving. He had just gotten fired, and he decided New York was too much for him. The day before, I had gone out with him, and he had told me this when we were in a cab. I hate cabs. I hate taxi cabs, because I feel like I don't like the creation of this like relationship of servitude. This idea that there's this person, there's the driver and the person who is drived somewhere, and if there is going to be that like caste system, I want to be the former, not the latter. I want to be the driver. I want to be the person who's the servant. I think it's just like this awful Marxist like mentality I have, where I want to identify with the people that I think I'm intellectually superior to. I hate cabs. They make me very uncomfortable. I think what it is, I just don't like the idea of creating a relationship that's so hierarchical, based just purely on money, which is why I'm uncomfortable in the cab as we're going to the strip club. I'm doing that stupid thing I always do when I'm in a cab, which is like I lean my head like into the cab driver's window, and I'm like trying to ask him about his life. I'm like, where are you from? this like patronizing tone. Oh, I love Midwood. I've been there once. I would love to, where's the good food in your neighborhood? And he can sense that I'm uncomfortable, and he's trying to be nice, the cab driver. And my friend Mike, he's my friend. I haven't really seen him since high school, but he's laughing at like me spiraling and out of control in front of the cab driver. And the cab driver turns to me and he goes, "What do you do?" And typically I would respond with this rant that I already have preconceived about, like, what do I do? Like you mean like what do I do for money to extract from the capitalist ecosystem? What cog in the machinery do I represent? Like, what do I do? How does that represent me? Who am I? That's what you should be asking me. But of course, I don't want to do that because I don't want to alienate this person who could be my friend. And also, what I do is I work at Key Food, slicing deli meats, and I don't feel like that represents me very well. I had just gotten the job. I had moved to New York, and even though I majored in mathematics, I didn't really add up my finances very well. I had $800 and a $550 sublet, which maybe you don't need a major in mathematics to realize that 800 minus 550 equals eating your roommate's peanut butter when he's not looking, and then smoothing the contours back over so that it looks like the contours looked before you went into the peanut butter. I needed a job like desperately, and I went outside and I found that Key Food was hiring. Key Food is just sort of like a basic, supermarket store, and they gave me the job. Luckily, I got the job, I think, because I worked in a store for my entire childhood. I worked in my parents' health food store in rural Maine, which is a little different than the blue-collar supermarket in Brooklyn. I had originally assumed that getting a college degree would be my way of getting a job, but I realized now I was hiding the fact that I had a college degree because I wanted to, like, fit in with my brethren. My brethren were Dennis, who was the first... the person who relieved my shift. And Dennis, the first words Dennis said to me, he was like 5'2", and he lived in the house that he had grown up in, the house that his parents had died in. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I fucked my prostitute last night. The Chinese one named Yo-Yo." I wanted to, no, I don't know. This is the first sentence you're saying to me, Dennis. I have no idea who sorry. I have no idea that you had sex with a prostitute who is definitely not named Yo-Yo and probably not Chinese. These are my brethren. Also, Ivan, the Ukrainian, he runs the prepared foods. Also, Ivan, the Ukrainian, he makes the prepared foods, the potato salads and the macaroni salads. Ivan, talking to him always feels dangerous. Not like you feel scared or anything, but you feel scared for him. Like he's only lies, like all of his sentences are lies, but he's like very careful to make sure you can't catch him in his lie. If I am to believe everything he's told me, and really I have no reason not to, he used to work at Olive Garden. And then before that, he owned a nightclub. At which point he always remembers this one time he was in the back seat of a convertible with two very big titted broads in both sides, and I felt like, if only those kids could see me now, those kids in the gym class that made fun of me, I would laugh in their face. And I thought, if only they could see you now, Ivan. Of course, I didn't say that. I just thought it. But my main compatriot was this guy George, who also sliced deli meats, and George showed me the ropes of the job, and he showed me all the perks that you get. The perks are that when somebody orders American cheese, the American cheese always hardens really badly on the outside. So when you slice it, the first slice, you can't serve to the customer. So you can always just hide that underneath the slicer, and then when Mike, the boss, isn't looking, you can eat that hardened disgusting piece of American cheese, perks. George is the person I work with the most, and I look over at George one day, and he's got he's drawing a square on his hand that's subdivided into 4 smaller squares. And I say, George, what are you drawing on your hand there? And he goes, oh, I got to cover up the swastika tattoos. And I realize, I don't just have to hide my elitist liberal arts education. I have to hide my last name. And he said tattoos. He didn't say tattoo. But, I'm trying to be open-minded. I mean, I know he's 65 years old. He has 5 teeth. His life couldn't have been... I know he's been in jail. He's told me that. On the other hand, in the same, breath, the only other tattoo he's commented on is this woman came in, this 90-year-old woman came in, and she reached for some pastrami. And she had a tattoo on her arm, just a number, a 7-digit number. And he said, and then when she left, he turned to me and he goes, that's how many guys she's banged. And first of all, it's sort of funny. I don't know. It's it's just a little bit funny. But on the other hand, George, you're not allowed to make that joke. The second you get a swastika tattoo, you can't make costume. I think you just give that up. That's a fair trade, George. I, of course, didn't say any of that. Anyway, I worked at Key Foods for a week. This was, going to be my last week, and I'd already given my week's notice to my boss, Mike. I told him that I had a job at the Children's Museum because I figured nobody that I worked with was legally allowed near the Children's Museum, so nobody could catch me in that lie. And I went out with my friend Mike, which is why I'm in the taxi cab, and I don't want to tell the taxi cab driver that what I do is I work at a Key Food slicing deli meat, because it doesn't feel like it speaks to who I am. So I tell him I'm a comedian, which when you tell somebody that you're a comedian, you always get the same response. They go, oh, tell me a joke. And I want to say, and what I always usually say is, no, I that's not what I do. What I do is I'm emotionally vulnerable into a microphone, and then other people go home and they think oh, I should be more emotionally honest with the people around me. That's what I do. That's what inspired me. The people that I looked up to were just people who were really emotionally raw, but with an amplified voice. That's what I want. I'm an only child. That's really what I'm saying. But I don't say that. For some reason I do. I just tell a joke. I tell the only joke I ever remember, which goes... So I had this relationship with the zoo. I'm from a small town, and where I'm, everybody knows everybody. And they called me up, and they were the zoo calls me up, and they go, Nisse, we're doing some renovations. We know you have that cold, dark basement, right? That's sort of dank, and you always have humidifier problems. And I'm yeah, I know. And they go, no, it's good, because we have to put the penguins somewhere, because we're doing all these renovations. And I go, oh, what does that have to do with me? And they go, could we keep the penguins at your place? Oh. They said, just a little bit of renovations. We'll give you the food, whatever. And I go, okay, that's fine. So I'm keeping these penguins. It's really cute. They're adorable. They're playing with each other in my basement. I get little penguin wheels for them. And then they call me up a couple months later, and they go, Nisse, we're doing a big grand opening. We need the penguins there, but we need to do it this weekend. And I go, problem. I'm going to Disneyland this weekend. And they go, okay. And I go, yes, I can't return them. But I think, I have my friend Mike. My friend Mike has that van, and I start bringing my old high school friend into the joke now. And he's like, no, don't bring me in. But I'm like, no, I need help. So I drag him in. I go, this is my friend Mike. And I go, Mike, you have that big van, right? Can you take I have 100 penguins in my basement, and this weekend I'm going to Disneyland, but I need you to take the penguins to the zoo. So I'll give you $50 to take the penguins to the zoo. And he goes, yeah, all right, sure. So I go to Disneyland. I ride the teacups. Everything's great. And I come back, and I'm walking around town, and what do I see? But I see Mike walking 100 penguins on a leash. And I go, Mike, I gave you $50 to take these penguins to the zoo. And he goes, Yeah, we had money left over. I'm taking him to the movies. And this is my favorite joke. And I got dead silence from the cab driver, which is maybe reasonable. But Mike is losing it. Mike loves watching me spiral out of control. But we've also arrived at the strip club, so he starts dragging me out of the cab. But as he's dragging me out, I'm like any sort of new comedian. I'm desperate. I can't leave on a bad note, so I'm going blue just to get a laugh. And I'm like, well, also I have another one. What's the difference between my penis and a dead baby's penis? And the cab driver's like, what? He just didn't hear me. And I go, I refuse to touch my penis. And the cab driver laughs, but I think it's just because I yelled penis. It was the wrong laughter, I could tell. So I'm trying to explain to him that this is a postmodern joke about the concept of I've recognized my own humanity within this joke, and I'm now refusing to touch my genitals. That's actually the punchline of the joke. It has nothing to do with the dead baby, but it never actually says anything about whether or not I touched the dead baby's penis, which would be, yes, awful and interesting that but it's somehow I haven't refused to touch it. I don't want to. I never say that I want to. And I'm trying to explain all this to the cab driver, but he's gone, and Mike has dragged me into the strip club. And I'm thinking, what have I gotten myself into? I'm in a weird world. Just yesterday, I was at Key Food, and George, my Nazi friend, had been saying that I was. He said he wanted to talk to me. He knew I was quitting, and he goes, "Nisse, I gotta talk to you after work." Yesterday he said this, and I go, oh, okay, and I don't meet him after work because I think there's something that gets ingrained in you, somewhere around I don't know, 1938, that you don't go meet a guy with a swastika tattoo in a back alley ever. But then yesterday he had said it again, and he said it with these pleading eyes, and I had been oh, sure. And after work I had I don't know, I trust people. I want to trust people. I don't know if I do trust people, but I want so badly to trust people. And I want to be included. I really want the blue collar. I'm such a poser. And so I'm walking out, and I go to this back alley, and I see George, and he's nervous. And I realize in this moment what he's nervous about. He wants to talk to me, but he knows the boss respects me, and he knows I'm leaving, and I think he just wants me to ask the boss if he can get a raise, and I get that. It's an $8 an hour job. He's 65 years old, and 40 hours a week is still $320 before taxes, and that is not easy. I know. So I walk up to him with confidence and keep my distance, though. And I go, hey, George, you wanted to talk? And he goes, yeah. Nisse, I like you. And I go, yeah. Neat. No. I like you. You know what I'm saying? There's this awful silence where I'm no, I don't. I have no idea what you're saying. And he goes, oh, look, Nisse, I'm a bisexual, and I would very much like to make love to you sometime. And I sort of shudder, and I think this through, and I'm like, does he think, really what the first thought that goes through my head is, does he think I'm in his league? Is that what I've come down to? I am a young 20-something in Brooklyn. I don't claim to be the hottest guy, but I'm an item. This personality is coming into vogue right now. I mean, Michael Cera, he made this thing sort of attractive, and that this guy thinks that I'm in his league. I don't say any of that. I just say, see you at work tomorrow, and I walk off very quickly. I want him to think that I'm very casual, but I'm walking as quickly as I can. And I'm thinking about all of this as we enter into the strip club, which I've never been in a strip club before, and it is everything that my personal dystopia could be. It is the two groups of people that make me most uncomfortable. Women with no clothing on that are okay with that, and men who have suits on and are okay with that. Just self-confident people. They're my least, they make me the least confident. and things are flashes and blurs, and I see like coke, and it's everything that I don't like. But I see Mike pass this stripper $21, and she starts to walk over toward me. Her name's Candy. I picked that up, and she's doing this just to get through nursing school. And I want to stop her and go, no. You don't have to say that. I'm not buying into that patriarchal fantasy of like, I'm just here to save you. I don't buy into that. I'm cool with you just being comfortable with your body. I don't say any of that, of course. But she's walking over to me, and all I can think is, $21? Really? What does that mean? Does that mean it's 7 minutes and it's $3 a minute? Or does that mean it's 3 minutes and it's $7 a minute? Because really, those are the only two factors of 21. Unless it's $20 a minute and there's just like a $1 tip. At $21 wouldn't make any sense. But a $1 tip, that's a 5% tip. You tip cab drivers more than that. I feel like strippers, you got to tip like more than that. Unless maybe he thought he gave two 20s and like the one was inside the other 20. And maybe I should just stop this lap dance. I'll be like, excuse me, Candy, look, I don't want to give you more money, but just do it halftime because we've only given you $21 and you can keep that extra dollar, but it's just, you think you're getting and I get sort of woken up out of my like neurotic stupor from like an areola sort of grazing past my eyelashes. I realize that I'm making a lot of eye contact, which is, she has like these like puppy dog confused eyes as to why I'm looking at her eyes. I think that's not what you're supposed to look at in a strip club. But I've been taught that that's how you interact with women. You don't look at their bodies, you look at their eyes. Even if you want to look down, you look at their eyes or their mouths, I don't know, the face area. And I'm looking very much at the face area. And I feel this need to say something. And so I say the only thing that comes to mind, which is, what do you think about Obama's single-payer healthcare? He proposed single-payer healthcare. I just feel like somebody who's in the nursing profession. You're in the medical field, and I'm just some guy. I don't know how it's gonna affect like real working people like you, and so I'm wondering how you feel about that. She finally makes eye contact back with me, and she goes, "Why are you so nervous?" And I want to say, fucking like climate change, man, and like, I don't know, we owe China like $3 trillion, and they're gonna want that back at some point. North Korea has like a dictator, and like we've lived in a world that's like patriarchal, that's created like fascism, and we still have fascism, but and I want to say all of this, but I just shut up and I go, I don't know, and I try to enjoy the rest of the lap dance. So, that's why I wrote on Craigslist, unlicensed person willing to give free therapy. Will only meet in public locations. This is not supposed to be creepy. I just have a lot of free time, and I think sometimes you need to talk to a stranger. I can be that stranger. Anytime you say this is not supposed to be blank, it's blank. It just is, right? That's the rule. So, in the TV show, Jonathan Ames, he gets an email back, like, right away. I think, that's the way TV works. But I didn't get one back that day. And I didn't get one back the next day. And then it was my last day at Key Foods. And every day I would come running back from work to check my email and see nothing. And I don't just mean nothing from Craigslist. I mean no emails. You know how bad or sad it feels to get no emails? Like, whatever creates junk mail in the world doesn't even think you're a person. Like, nah, he's not gonna buy anything. He doesn't want his penis bigger. But that last night, I get home and I see no emails, and I think I'm gonna go walk to the donut shop. It's this beautiful 2.5 mile walk, and I really like the donut shop really because it's 2.5 miles away, which takes about 2 hours to go back and forth between. And that's a really great amount of time to not have to think of what to do. But I get this call, and it's from Ivan, the Ukrainian. I answer the phone, and I hear, arguing in the background, like distant background. And it's quiet, and he goes, "Hey, Nisse." "Hey, Ivan." "Look, I'm in the hallway of my building. It's why you're hearing the arguments." Nisse. Yeah? What? Sorry, what? "Oh, man, I don't know. And there's like something different in his tone. It doesn't feel like he's joking around. This doesn't feel dangerous in the same way in this like fun game that we used to play where it's like, ooh, did I catch you in a lie? No. It feels like scary, dangerous, like he's about to break down. He's serious. And then he goes, "She doesn't want to be a CSI anymore, man. No CSI." I know what he's talking about. He's talking about his fiance. He was working this job at Key Foods because he was trying to put her through what he kept on calling CSI school. She watched a lot of CSI and she decided she'd be good at that. But now, in the middle of school, she wants to drop out mid-semester, and Ivan got angry, and he yelled at her, and then he apologized, but she was now just like so angry, and he felt so sad that he said he was going to take a walk, but instead he just went out in the hallway and he called me. We had known each other for like 2 weeks. And he rants and he tells me all this, and he ends with all these questions. What should I do? What's going to happen next? How am I supposed to feel? And I'm nervous. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. And simultaneously, I feel intruded upon. Like, I didn't ask for some stranger to tell me all of their emotional problems. I didn't propose to be a sponge for some random person's lifeblood as it drains out of them via, like, adult situations that I hadn't handled in my own life, right? Except, of course, I did. So again, I'm struck with silence. And I don't know what to say because what I think I'm coming to realize is that I can't blame the fact that my life isn't as interesting as TV on a lack of plot lines. The problem is the protagonist is just too in his own head to be compelling.
That was The Classifieds by Nisse Greenberg. Nisse is a performer, an educator, and a producer. He's the creator of the storytelling shows Drawn Out Storytelling, VHS Presents, and Bad Feelings. And he's performed and won story slams all over the country. All over the place, maybe all over the world, I don't know. But Nisse is one of my favorite people to talk to about storytelling. And you can hear us talking about that topic in episode 8 of this podcast. You can also learn about a new project he's working on, which may or may not have a relationship to the story you just heard, tentatively titled Working Class by by going to his website, which is conveniently called nissegreenberg.com. For more information about Nisse and about this podcast, go to the show page. This has been Modern Stories Mix, episode 16. I'm your host, Julie Threlkeld. I forgot to identify myself and this podcast in the last episode, by the way, but in part of my ongoing campaign to stop being a perfectionist, and I hope in the process save myself lots of time and grief, I'm not going to go back and fix it. And I probably shouldn't even have mentioned it here because I'll bet no one even noticed. As far as news goes, I'll be posting one of my own news stories to the site soon, not as part of the podcast, but just a recorded story. Performing has been very light for me this year, and when I've performed, I've usually not recorded it, so I don't have a lot of new stories to share. But I hope to remedy that a bit this summer. I'm going to be performing next that I know of in mid-June as part of the New York Story Exchange at the Cornelia Street Cafe. And I'm pitching to a couple of other shows over the next couple months, so fingers crossed. Details will be, as always, on the NYC Storytelling Calendar at modernstories.com/calendar. I'm also working on a new solo show, which I hope to present in the late summer or early fall of this year. And I don't have much to say about that yet, except that it will be 45 minutes to an hour long, and it's going to be nothing like my last solo show. And I have no clue how I'm going to make what I want to make. But for me, that's the fun of creating things, figuring those things out. I'm also planning to do a survey of storytellers to learn more about who is telling stories and why. To my knowledge, no one has done that yet, so I'm interested in doing it. So when I get all that pulled together, I'll provide details here and on the Modern Stories website, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Until next time, thank you for listening.